Here.
You got it on.
This one seems to be going.
What did you do for it?
And it's supposed to follow like whoever the speaker is. I think it's supposed to follow around.
Okay.
Yeah, I read little bits in the paper.
So my friend just started to work. So when I came over to start with him. It'd be on 4 years. Yeah, I'll see you. I didn't even realize what happened.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah, they leave it. So it's right here.
The Cape Cinema needs is just one thing.
Why do that? I thought it was 4:30.
It's the green to show up.
No,
All the
actually,
problems will go away.
so you know, that's.
You want to go out on the strip. It's an institution, it's a board, it's a nonprofit, it's got people involved, it's on the
Oh, that's nice.
and people don't get the idea. It's run numbers that we pass.
Yeah,
It's not a question.
I think it's only one.
Yeah, I'll close it once the meeting starts. Thank you, Laura.
Right, have fun.
Well, Anthony, it's not so much that
We did
sustain, right? But we got into a nasty situation a year ago. We were committed to.
I like, thank you for all your.
It was a good drink.
No.
Yeah, that's salaries.
Good.
And a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's not what it's worth. That's another trip, that's all.
Yeah, that's it. Contracts. One of the main things, that you want to do is donate.
Right. I wanted to do business.
And while we're there, I took a side trip, took a train up to Trover, around the cabin,
So you basically hire a
cemetery.
Come close the books.
Yeah, I probably said she was taking out trips. Canal trips. So the come down this canal.
Is that who the chair was?
The
During the pandemic, but when they were closed, it's just great trip.
Where did
you take it out? The canal.
Depends on the year. That year, we probably picked it up at Oxford. But some years I did school trips. So one year we did Liverpool area, we did the Beatles, we did a Magic Mystery Tour, went up to a place called Llangollen, which is Wales. And the other time we did Stratford, we did Warwick. And it's very familiar. We got the one we
As soon as I got home, it was like 2 minutes.
we had options. Depended. Yeah, I like to try to finish yes, we can get home. We see a lot of time. You also do that? Did you go
Think about pulling out.
Right. We focus mainly on.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. My son was yeah.
Went to Greenwich.
Yeah. That's nice.
Thanks for reminding me of the
When's showing up, I guess, tomorrow.
Oh, it is.
Not tomorrow, next week.
Next week,
Yes,
Yeah.
Went to.
I believe June is flying high already.
But
print copy.
whether you sit in front of the campus to go out what you said, because I don't the assumption there's so long.
My son was just there.
Thank you.
I'm gonna read your letter into the record.
I've never done this. Hi.
I don't understand this digital stuff. I just keep trying
No,
everything
anyhow.
out.
I'm glad you went, glad you get there.
The socks on.
She said.
So I was a friend who's a archaeologist.
And if she just like highlighted or have like a smiley face, I would have
So
to.
he's
So they still have to scan it again and store it. A box. They want to email us, like 3D printed.
Rich media, you can see most of them. They'll have really cool articles about people beginning to use that.
Wow.
So when
I told Jennifer, do not use voice prompts. Now discovering you can make voice. The best part of this is how we are to say.
Yeah, we don't have it here.
No, I mean, you get
Don't
those
speak.
you not get that training.
It's one of those. Yeah, let's have a conversation.
It's one of those unknown features.
And move on.
Come back in.
We just had a bunch of new employees, graduates and summer interns. And I said, make sure you go to the meeting.
Yeah.
And no,
That was one of the.
I pulled out one of my old journals. See, because when somebody calls, you want to write down their phone number. But first of all, now it shows up on your phone. So you don't have to write it.
Color still.
The west side.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not around. It's not bad around that intersection, but they did get the place before they wrap it up.
It's the garden. It's just.
Well,
I have friends who.
I always say something along about slightly.
It's where, and
And if you right next
so
to
we
it,
just take a
that's
where 20-25 minutes a day.
let me show you this fully furnished model. Oh, ready for removal.
I'm down to oh wow, nice.
So you want foot pretty soon?
No. I can only walk. I can't walk. Don't want to walk.
Okay.
Like I was on my feet today for about 2 hours. It's
How about the kayak?
no one allowed. He said no kayaking because not the kayaking, getting in. Because you can snap the kill it.
So when we get the green light, we go.
The early, well, I have my next appointment in July. I am PT.
Hello.
She gives me a little more I can do. So I started volunteering up at
How's it going?
I was up to city once.
Pretty keen.
I don't know, you know,
I'm pretty plugged in, and I didn't know this coastal training.
so until
I think webinar puts it on. I don't know how good a job they did at advertising.
Quick pay.
that's what I'm
On this side, I am.
50%.
At least they drive time.
100%. 2 days, then I could 2 days later take the boot off.
Yeah, especially that time. This time we're gonna try.
Not when I know. That's simply
This is something out there.
That was the best thing when I went.
They didn't come out either.
Right.
That's why they're so self-sufficient.
Tonight, you don't have to wear it.
He's in the office, I saw him on the fly.
Because every time I slept in separate bedrooms, every time I turn over, I can't change it.
I talked to Ian this morning. He said he hadn't looked at it yet. Said, yeah.
Well, that's not.
Yeah.
That's not
That's
there.
not
Administrative, even in the comments.
Then nobody.
I told him
Right.
one
She had to wait.
So he said, you can just pray out.
Good.
Causing us to.
You slow
I don't
down.
know if the permit then was posted on the.
When you pick up in the morning, you don't read your
I wasn't sure if it was just the monitor that had to post it.
Signed up, just a letter.
In this case, I thought.
Think so?
Yeah.
Well, they getting $6 a pop, aren't they?
It's funny that never brought that up in any of the discussions.
So not to.
Because it's the same site.
So are we at 370 plus?
I enjoy it. 21 stories that appear there.
Maybe.
I keep going with what they said. Or an email. Because I get tweak Ian every now and then. Oh, it's in the portal. You gonna issue it? It's just in the backup.
That's a concern.
That's been going on for 9 months now.
I'm on the shelf above you, and I want
Absolutely. Good, how you doing?
Very good.
They're all the same.
What would you like?
I was just gonna spread these around. Get some chips.
Oh,
Wrinkle free. Wrinkle free. Real. Pork this time, not the chips. Yeah. Don't let them watch them.
It's a name.
For argument's sake, one there, one in the back. In case the public comes today. Said you were working, how much you doing that?
Okay. Yeah, sometimes. This kind of long days.
Right.
That's not. Interesting. Because I work 7. Three trips.
Right.
But it's the season, it looks like the next meeting. I'm only working out. We done by 2:30. That's just the way it runs now. So we get this down. Running 14. But they're in the yard right now. So we'll be back. So yeah, so I'm working Sunday, Monday, Wednesday.
I should have. Didn't change, right?
No, it didn't. Okay. Thanks.
I got my comment. No, I got.
Yeah. Keeps me out of trouble.
I don't think I'm going to be looking at target. The senior intimidated by.
You guys want to start?
Who's the new guy?
You get the appointment time. You know, ETV puts 10 pounds on
It's off. Your hand is off.
So we're at the June 10th meeting of the Water Resources Advisory Committee. Government DPW. Thanks all for attending. Let's take a quick vote to see if we have a quorum. Mary Franklin, can you hear us? You are muted.
That's me.
Oh.
I am muted. So yeah, no one else has come on.
Thanks, guys. Going down the list, John.
Yeah.
George.
Here.
David.
Here.
Mark.
All right.
Lee,
Here.
and Will is not here yet. So it looks like we have a quorum. This is our custom. We want to start with the Wright Pierce report, which is euphemistically called the progress report.
So we have made very good progress this past month. On May 31st, the draft groundwater discharge permit was issued for internal review. We spent last week going through the permit, making some comments, which were sent back to DEP on the 7th, last Friday. And I spoke to Ian Jarvis at DEP today, and he kind of went through the comments quickly. They were mostly administrative type editorial comments. So he sees no problem in formally issuing the draft by the end of this week. So now the next phase is to publish that in a public notice that the draft permit is out for public comment for a 30-day period. So that will be published in the Environmental Monitor. We have to get it to the Monitor by a week from today, or we're shooting for the end of the week. So put that ad in the Monitor, and I guess in the Cape Cod Times, Jeff, that would be issued also. Being posted to the town website, the draft permit. So we made good grounds with DEP as far as getting them to issue a draft permit. It's allowed us to advertise for the water resource recovery facility. So that is currently out on the street. That advertisement was issued on May 29th, and plans were made available to the contractors on May 31st. And anyone can go onto the town website and download and request those plans. You'd be added to the handholder list. The next, well, some of the items of discussion. So the permit right now is for 370,000 gallons a day at the Buck Island Road site. The town and CDM Smith are in discussions with Berry Hills Golf Course for adding an additional 250,000 gallons a day of irrigation water. I believe at the last meeting, we had a handout showing how they want to expand their irrigation pond. So that would be good for us also, give us additional 250,000 gallons a day for peak summer use. But we still have to investigate alternative sites moving forward. DEP has agreed to, while we're investigating those sites, once we start putting water onto the Buck Island Road site, continual monitoring. We have groundwater monitoring plan and a wetland monitoring plan. So as we monitor groundwater, we can demonstrate that groundwater is not rising. We may actually be able to put more water on that site as well. So we've made good progress with DEP, fortunately. Allow us to move forward with the resource recovery facility. Regarding the resource recovery bidding, there's a pre-bid conference scheduled for July 10th. We meet with contractors. We have to follow mass bidding laws, which requires something called filed sub-bid opening. So all of the trades that are not the general contractor, painting, electrical, mechanical, tile, glazing, are all filed sub-bids that come in. And then those sub-bids get sent out to the general contractors. These are the firms that are the low bidders for the trade work. General bid opening now is scheduled for August 20th. So we're allowing ourselves enough time so that we can award, evaluate the bids, award well in advance of the October 31st day.
Back to the permit for a second. Assuming everything stays as foreseeable today, will we have the permit for the plant by August 1st?
Public comment period ends on July 26th. 30 days from June 26th. Once comments come in, if there are none, it's foreseeable that yes, the permit could be issued in early August.
So tentatively, that looks like. Oh, no, I mean, it's a realistic thing.
It is realistic.
The key is you just need to have it in hand before the town signs the general contractors bid, which would be
before October, before the award, which would be October. And we need the permission to award from SRF. They won't issue the permission to award until we have.
I had a question on your bidding process. Are you saying that all of the trades are going to be bid separately? And trades are going to bid separately, and then the low bidders on that would join with the general contractor?
The general contractors then look at that list,
okay,
and they pick from the list of low bidders.
So they might not pick the low bidder, the general contractor.
they don't have to. If they have a bad relationship with them, they may not pick them.
Right.
They're not obligated to.
But their bid is going to be predicated on what they think they can build a plant for, and also based on the trade contractors that they select.
Yes,
correct.
Those bids. So they can't put their bid together until all the trades come.
The sub bidders can purposely exclude certain general contractors that they say this bid is not for X, Y.
Really?
If they, if there's a bad relationship and vice versa, the channels don't have to take.
I believe that was similar to with the new school.
Yeah,
So just saying, if you recall any of the back and forth, if it ever got to you about how the school general contractor had to deal with it. There were some, I think there's pluses and minuses. But in general, it was the good news is they're used to it. Even if I personally think it's strange, but I'm also not from Massachusetts. So
Same me.
right, which is maybe why we're both asking the question. What a funny state we live in. Sorry, but I just wanted to put it in context. We just did a multi-$100 million project in our town with this very interesting style. And I would just also like to throw out a lot more subs than I think we're going to see here. The school had subs for subs. There were subcontractors for subcontractors. It was fascinating. Oh my God.
And we had to pre-qualify all those.
Right.
How many subs are we talking about?
There were at least a dozen categories. At least
More than
any category that's over 10,000 in value.
Okay.
There had to be a minimum of 3 per category. So 50 submissions.
We don't have that many subs on Cape Cod.
I don't know.
They won't all be from Cape Cod.
No.
I noticed on this Daniel O'Connor, right? One of your general contractors.
One of the general, so on page 2,
Yeah.
you can see we have 5 general contractors pre-qualified. They've all expressed interest and all have taken out, gone online and downloaded the plan.
Yeah, Nickerson is.
Yeah. So these are the contractors that we were anticipating responding. Hopefully they'll bid. At least they've all pulled the documents. A large enough project that it has their attention. So that covers the permitting and the water resource recovery facility. Mike, do you want to go over the collection system?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
So we don't need.
So just a quick update on the construction that's going on. Contract 2 and contract 3 are currently working. So contract 2, we'll start with them, Robert B. Hour. So right now they have a couple of crews on Route 28 still. They requested and got granted permission from MassDOT to work Castle Water Day. So they're trying to get the piece of Route 28 between Old Main and Forest River done. So they've got sewer and water work going on at the same time, trying to finish that up. I think they're scheduled to be done this week, I believe.
7 of them.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah,
One way or another,
definitely this week. So next week, they'll have a crew start on Old Main Street at the Route 28 intersection. To the east. Second crew will go to Pond Street at Old Main and start working toward Route 28. And the third crew is going to be working on the Force Main up to the treatment facility. So they'll be out on Buck Island. Start on that end. So those are downstream. So they'll have 3 crews going.
So I just need a little education. I notice the procedure generally is they dig the trench, they work in the trench, they fill the trench in. The next day they go back and they dig the trench, they work in the trench, and they fill the trench in. Now, basic arithmetic.
That's why it's so expensive. It takes so long.
They're doing a lot of digging.
A lot of digging and
a lot
filling.
of energy that could be used, in my view, more productively. You know, so is there a reason why that, you know, they don't dig the trench? I understand they stop work at some point at the end of the day, cap the pipe, put steel plate, come back the next morning, keep on digging. You know, I'm not a sewer construction expert, but I know enough to know that.
Some cases they might.
In some areas they've done that, but generally that's not allowed by Mass DOT.
Not allowed by Mass DOT.
Right. And there's also
don't like plates.
There's also they don't like plates, and there's also just concerns about the load that would carry.
True.
You want fire trucks driving over steel plates, probably.
It's an open. Sometimes the plates shift. If it's wet, the plates get slippery.
They tend to bounce,
Okay.
so they gotta be pinned in place, but they can still bounce out of the pins. And so
So
if in the middle of the
The short
night,
answer is it's a safety
Yeah.
issue more than anything else. All right.
Yeah, so in the cases, just to further answer your question, where they've actually done plates and overnight, for the most part, there's a couple of cases on South Shore, they close the road overnight as well. Fire doesn't like to see that either, but as long as they know ahead of time, they'll know that they need to change the route to get to a response.
Right. I've seen it where they actually leave the box in the trench and close the road in that section.
Particularly if they're deep in a difficult area, then as you said, rather than trying to re-excavate down to grade again, that might be. You might do that in a certain area. And then they'll come back and do services off of that, so they take the trend down to the pipe again and go perpendicular to the services. So they typically do that with a smaller group after the main line has been installed. So
They're doing the services on that piece that we were just talking about between Forest Road and the Y at Old Main as well.
I think their intent is to try and get everything done in that stretch, so they don't have to go back out there every day.
And the section of Buck Island, you're talking about Buck Island to Winslow Gray, not Buck Island. Right. So because we're not Buck Island coming the other way is a whole different section, right? Whole different contract.
Well, all of Buck Island, Winslow Gray, Long Pond, well, not Long Pond's an example, and Forest are for the Forest. We're not
Right, what I mean,
anybody.
right. I'm talking about, let me just say, the part of Buck Island that gets a lot of use, which is from West Yarmouth Road.
Right.
Coming this way, that is a whole nother separate, that's a whole nother contract.
there's no piping on that.
Right. I didn't think so.
Starting at the water department.
Okay,
where the-
and going,
that's where they're going.
Going east, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that in my head, because I was thinking, gosh, a lot of people like to use Buck Island Road, and I hope it's not the section that I.
The Force Main follows the bike trail, right? For a good
On
part of that.
Forest, for a stretch,
Yeah.
but it doesn't extend.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask about Buck Island.
What type of pipe is that? That's a HDPE, high density.
Okay, that's right.
Plastic pipe.
I knew it wasn't ductile, didn't have the bells on.
Yeah, they fuse that together.
Yeah.
So you're still on contracts 2 and 3.
That was contract 2, unless there are any further questions. And contract 3 has thankfully only one crew going, Seaview Avenue, and they're going to be going for another couple of weeks.
Well, no, I think I was just out there now. We're pretty confident by Wednesday they may be setting the last structure.
Okay.
And then spend the rest of the week. They have it through the end of next week, but they'll need to clean up, pave and clean up. I know they've asked for additional time, maybe to start the
Yeah,
first name?
Yeah, just to the 21st, but we want them to wrap up as soon as possible for the summer.
Yeah, they should be done this week. They're making good progress out there. It's shallow.
Good.
That's the first page.
No, that's gravity sewer from 28 to
Melgo.
Just past Melgo. It's 600 feet. 28.
And the force main will tie into that, to the last main. So that's contract 3 in terms of construction. Contract 4 is noted here. Actually went out to bid last week. The specs were available as of last Wednesday. So the bid opening for that contract is June 27th.
And have you seen a number of plan holders?
I haven't had a chance to take a look at the list. Maybe tomorrow.
You know, Mary sent me the plan holders for that.
Yeah.
I can send one tomorrow, but I can give you.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
5 and 6 are just sitting there waiting.
5 and 6 are under design. So the plan is to get those out to bid in August. So we're pushing along with that design.
Those would also be bid and awarded right before October. That's so
intent to
back to the
okay, yeah, back to so SRF loan application. They're just waiting on the authorization to award. That's underway with contracts 2 and 3. The payment applications are being submitted to SRF. I don't believe the town has received their first payment yet. Although everything's
not from SRF, I don't
but
think.
been sent to them.
The August 31st contract date dovetails with the SRF loan application deadline, which is a hard date, right?
The
loan application.
October 31st.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we would have to have a contract done by then as well.
The original deadline is June 30th.
Remember the extension, they're not moving October 31st. Just have to make sure we get our contract under that deadline.
And then since the last meeting, we've continued to hold workshops with DEP. We're going to continue that really until we get the final permit.
Can I ask a quick question about those?
Sure.
So you guys have been doing this about, I don't know, 6 months maybe? Meeting every other week? How would you describe like the vibe? You know, because every time every time we get this update, it says that you guys met twice. And now you've got enough, you've met with these guys and women 15, 18 times. So like, do they see this project differently than when they did 6 months ago? Do you get a sense that like, this is a good thing, we're making progress, we all like each other more than we did 6 months ago, when maybe there was just more, but you know, 6 months ago, there was way more uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
About the groundwater discharge.
Because no one had done this before.
Right, so that's why I'm just asking if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, just to kind of get a sense of like, where are we with Mass DEP? As I'm asking for a vibe check.
We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of questions that we went back and answered. I did some additional studies and additional modeling. I have to credit Carolyn from CDM Smith as their hydrogeologist. Spent a lot of time with the state's hydrogeologist in getting concurrence and looking at all types of scenarios, high groundwater, low groundwater, different flow regimes. So I think we gained their confidence.
Great.
And it was a confidence building exercise and getting their group, because it was not only the Southeast Regional Office, but Boston, the hydrogeologists, the wetlands group, right, the Conservation Commission, everyone on the same page and recognizing that this is an important project for the town and for the Cape. And I think DEP stepped up to the plate for Okay. As, you know, we spent a lot of effort to get to where we
Yeah,
are.
I know that, and I have no doubt about your intentions and your heart and your efforts, including folks that aren't even sitting in this room. But it is interesting and nice to hear something nice being said about DEP. And I'm saying that officially because it's easy. What I'm saying is 6 months ago, we weren't. I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about you. No. I'm talking about me. Let me be clear.
Very frustrated.
I'm saying me. I'm talking about me as a citizen and a volunteer on this committee. I didn't have a lot of nice things to say because all I knew was what I was hearing about how much it felt like a little bit of we were running into a stone wall. And so I think it's okay to say, well, that's not true anymore. And we have made progress and you guys do feel better / differently about our deadlines that we can't avoid about October 31st than we did, you know, in December and January. So I think it's okay to, not for you, but I can say that it's nice to hear good news, Mr. Chairman, about the DEP.
I'm with you. I was thinking the same, along the same lines. This seems to be a fairly collegiate environment to have these conversations because absent this process, it was the formal back and forth, whether electronically or on the phone.
And I'm also happy for all of you because obviously there's a lot that has to go right in a relatively short amount of time.
Seems like this is the only one of these that they're doing at the moment, but they're also creating a process by which they're going to be
for other
having to do this with other communities.
Well, I'll share with what the director of the Southeast Regional Office said. If we didn't have meetings scheduled every 2 weeks, it would get pushed to the bottom of the line. So the fact that every the week before we said, hey, here's the agenda, this is what we want to talk about, they prepared for it. So they knew, you know, meetings coming up, and we all kind of tasked each other with this is what we want to have accomplished by that meeting. So I think it really helped them and helped us just keep the ball rolling.
Thank you for sidestepping.
Okay, so you meet with these guys again in July.
We meet with them July 10th. We pushed the meetings off now to every month.
July 9th, right?
I
think that's
July. Yes, next meeting is July. So
yeah, question, Mr. Chairman. Is it because of the geology of the Cape that and the way that we're designing the plant and discharging to the ground? Is that the main issue that makes DEP look at us a little differently than what they've done in the past?
The biggest constraint is that they've invoked a new criterion for evaluating these. We think it's in part because of both the Maui case that we've discussed with you in the past, which leads to quote direct discharges. So they came up with this 0.1 foot, 1 inch impact criterion. If you're under that, they say it's automatic approval. If you're over it, you have to prove to them that it's quote acceptable. Up until doing this, they've never used that criteria. It's not written down anywhere. It's not in any regulation. So to follow up a little on what Will said, yes, it's been very positive. We've now achieved our goal of getting phase 1 out to bid. But as I pointed out to them at the last meeting too, that they need to continue having internal discussions that they cannot continue with this criteria set because all they've done is approve right now 0.37 MGD of the 8 million gallons you need.
Right.
And there aren't enough sites in Yarmouth or Cape Cod to get to 8 million gallons with that set of criteria.
Right.
So they said that they are holding internal discussions about revising modeling criteria going forward. Where that
or Dave?
Oh, we've done groundwater discharge permits. Kingston's being built now for 700,000 gallons a day, and none of this came up, and that was permitted less than 2 years ago. I did 1 million gallons up in Norton for the MFN regional facility. None of this came up.
And there was no upper limit on
No. And as we've told you before, septic systems in densely developed neighborhoods would fail that criteria. You're putting too much water in a septic system. So that's how. I'm okay.
And we're even trying to argue that because of the depletion in the groundwater and pumping last 20 years.
It's going to be a challenge, not just for us, but for the
remediation.
It's a Cape Cod issue.
All universal, right? So we get to go first. But to your specifics, 300,000 gallons, just for argument's sake.
That additional 70 is quite a bit, so say 370.
Well, I'm going to use sort of general numbers now.
Phase one, does it?
Permit, right? So that's the question. We are phase 1.2. Phase 1 is 1.2. Right. This is give or take a third. We're going to get a permit for about a third of phase 1, but at the same time, we're going to move headlong into finishing phase 1. Right. Right, but we're not sure who's going to get to hook up when.
Well, that's why we're continuing to pursue the other sites.
If it's all done, right. So we're going to add $250,000 of Bayberry, maybe we're going to add another third of $1 million cells and maybe get to that phase 1 required amount of discharge. Maybe we'll get permits for phase 1. But that's phase 1. That's it for now.
That's why I pointed out to them, do you want to solve the nitrogen issue on Cape Cod, or do you want to say white cedar, maples in some obscure swamp?
I am seeing the ghosts of 2011 at the moment. Because at the end of the day, you could probably not force your way, but negotiate your way to 1.1 million, but you're far cry from the whole project.
And don't forget, the 1.2 does include a fair amount of build out flow along Route 28. So that's not going to happen year 1, maybe year 5. So you've got some time. What is it? It's like 500,000 gallons.
So let's just say we're building a plan at the moment for 1.1 million permit, which at least allows us to honor our commitments through phase 1, including construction contracts. We're talking about putting out construction contracts for capacity we're not sure we're going to have permits for.
But the plan is sized for the ultimate.
Well,
that's what I guess.
Half of it.
Right, but we don't have permission to discharge half of it.
No, forget that. We don't have permission.
Right. That's true.
We just happen to name these contracts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 and 3 started before 5 and 6. But we're going to give authority to 5 and 6 to be built and come online the same time the plant comes online. The plant's only going to be permitted for
370.
So we're going to have in the ground infrastructure paid for, waiting for treatment, which not coincidentally creates the revenue to pay back the cost of the infrastructure. So kind of, and if we get to that, we can take a breath and say, okay, now what? Because we need DEP's direction on this, but we really can't move into phases 2 and 3 unless we identify a solution for discharge. My backhand way of saying it's something 2011. Again.
Okay, to the best of your knowledge, has any town on Cape or DEP had any conversation about at least a partial outfall pipe solution?
Actually, right now we're doing studies in Barnstable, where we're doing looking at what's called indirect potable reuse, and we're also evaluating direct potable reuse because you're treating to such high standards. If you put reverse osmosis or some other very high level filtration on the back end of your high quality effluent, why are you putting it in the ground? Why are you putting it in the ocean? You might as well use it as a product. So we've been doing this in other parts of the country. And so our staff who have been involved in those projects are working directly with Barnstable now. So that's something that Yarmouth may want to consider. Obviously ocean outfalls may come back. My guess is if ocean outfalls are looked at, it would probably have to be a regional outfall. And the big question is, how far up does it go? That's the big unknown. And I don't know if any of us would be here by the time those studies were done.
And where?
So I think direct potable reuse or indirect meaning you put it in the ground, but then you pump it out of the groundwater and send it to the treatment plant versus direct potable, which you just pipe it from water resource facility to the water treatment plant. But again, it's being done in water short areas now throughout the country, Arizona, Texas, all those areas, California. So I think that's more likely than an outfall.
Just to clarify the indirect for the unknown here. So you take the treated effluent, pump it into the.
You put it in the ground and then you put a well down gradient, meaning downstream of that, pull that groundwater out and send that to the water treatment plant.
Which is essentially what's happening now by the septic systems that are putting it into the ground and you're pumping it
Using
out.
the ground as a filter.
But you're getting probably a better, higher quality of treatment through the plant than you do through a septic system.
It's actually even more storage at that point than filter, because you've already treated to such a high level, put it in the ground, you're probably making it a lesser quality product. That's why the direct potable almost makes more sense. But from a perception point of view, the indirect.
Jensen. Mr. Chairman.
No, Mr. Chairman, I mean, that's what the
David is.
Yeah, I have a question. This is thinking way down the road. We have all 6 contracts done, and then you have these neighborhoods off the contracts. When those neighborhoods are done, meaning let's say Lewis Bay, Bass River, what are we talking about per gallons per day during the summer? Do we know?
I'm not sure. Well, for the ones that are
when everything's done,
yeah, there's 8.
How many?
8 million
a day. And so we have
so peak day at times is 3.5. You need 3.5 million gallons for your 40-year program. Or that's an average day. Well, but you peak that, which is what the groundwater discharge permit is written for. That's a little over 8 million gallons.
Okay. And then just one other comment, if I might, when well, I forgot the name, people came to the Conservation Commission, but I was very impressed.
Carolyn.
Yeah, because they really explained things in a level that I could understand. I think we asked a lot of good questions and they had the right answers. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Impressed with that. I wasn't impressed with this guy at the end.
Yeah, I was there too.
Just so you know, the Dennis Conservation Commission unanimously passed theirs too. So the big question is, we have to go to Harwich. Dennis site is in Dennis and Harwich for the groundwater impact.
So you have construction schedules here for us if you want to refer them, but the only one that you're pointing out is that we're looking at a winter 2025 construction start for the plant.
if it's awarded in October.
We're talking about 9 months from now.
Well, we look at it more from the award date. If it's awarded in October, it's probably 5 to 6 months out before they break ground because of all the submittals that have to come in.
Yeah, March, April.
Winter's a broad term. Could be early spring.
Yeah, it depends on the winter weather too. They may do some earthwork and that type of thing that doesn't have as much submittals.
Whatever winter is.
Again, it's January to May.
It's sometimes 2025.
Exactly.
2025.
And if it starts by July 1st of next year, we're probably going to be happy about that. But I'm just wondering how quickly this is going to play out with an October contract.
I'd say within 6 months of award, they'll be mobilized and on site. They'll want to get started.
They'll want to get started as early as they can in the winter because it's easier to find places to staff them down here in the winter than in the summer. And there's a lot of earthwork, surveying, that type of stuff that doesn't necessarily need as much submittals coming in. It's not the piping, concrete, mechanical stuff, all that.
Okay. And how those fences with the peak holes in them so people can walk? See what we're getting for I lost track. How much is this plant?
106
We don't know
million.
yet.
106 million.
Engineer's estimate is 106 million.
I'll let you know on August 20th.
Thanks, Lou. You like to read those slides?
Yeah, this is, it's on the stuff. Here.
You wanna do it that way?
Yeah.
No one's online.
Oh, no one's online. All right, not good too. I'm sorry. Never mind.
It's just me and the other person.
That's fine.
No,
So we covered collection. The only other item on the collection system slide, on slide 4. Did have a meeting with Barnstable a couple of weeks ago just to talk about opportunities to cooperate. I don't know. Let me give a quick debrief on that. I wasn't at that meeting, but we have a sewer on Ina Road, just sort of 3 or 4 parcels that's right out the town line, Barnstable. So I coordinate with them to come up with a solution that works for those parcels and parcels on the other side. It sounds like a shared pumping station between the 2 communities. For those parcels as well as parcels Barnstable, like make the most sense.
Yeah, we met with them. Jeff was there, Lawyer Rizal, and Amanda Lima. We met with their wastewater folks through DPW. Just an update where Yarmouth was in the whole process. We heard where they are in implementing their programs. And then we got into the specific request for the meeting, which was the INO Road area. You may recall our plan was to put a gravity sewer in down to 4 parcels to pick up the flow and put a small pumping station in the front of the property at Shields MRI parcel, and then pump it back to the sewer in Route 28. But you know, that's a lot of piping for 4 parcels for the town of Yarmouth. So where they're also looking at running a sewer from up at Yarmouth Road intersection, because it flows downhill almost to 1 or 2 parcels short of Shields MRI to pick up the parcels there, and then they were going to pump up through Cedar Street over to their nearest gravity sewer. So bottom line, after discussing some different options, is I think we left it that they would end up picking up the 4 customers that are in Yarmouth. We would delete that piping from the Yarmouth contract 6, and tentatively identified a small parcel in front of Shields MRI for a pumping station site. Jeff offered to at least go talk to them about that concept and then get back to Barnstable because they're going to need a pumping station site. But the way we left it is those 4 parcels from Yarmouth would connect into the Barnstable system and send their flow to Barnstable. How that was paid for, whether through the Barnstable system or through the Yarmouth system, those details are still to be worked out. But I think that's pretty much the way we left it.
It's a sort of Captain Obvious question. Is 4 parcels total that we're trying to deal with here? Or is there potential other connections there?
That's it.
Well,
Yeah, it's very limited.
For the specifics we talked, it was just those 4. But
so why wouldn't we just exempt the 4 from the plan? Call it a day. It's going to be 8,000 other septic systems out there in the foreseeable future. How about 4 more? And just save the money.
That's something that could be considered, but you know, what we're running into here, and we will every other phase going forward, is pump stations are difficult to find a location. And the reason Barnstable is open to working with Yarmouth on this issue is they have not found anyone along that stretch that's willing to allow the siting of a pump station. But so certainly doing nothing is always an option. But we're looking at all the options, is the bottom line. And pump station location is the biggest challenge other than groundwater discharge on these plants.
Yeah, it's something you guys have to crunch the numbers and see what makes sense financially.
I do think on the other side of that, there's some value in being able to say that 100% Route 28 through the town of Yarmouth is sewered.
And Barnstable will be sewing all the way up Iron Road, all the way up past the airport and all that, so there'd suddenly be 4 parcels that weren't sewered.
Have they decided that?
Yeah,
Because they've been holding off on Iona Road for 30 years because they don't want development that goes with the sewer.
well, at least from Yarmouth Road, they're doing it. They showed us what phase it's in, it's like 5 years out.
It's a big challenge for them over the years. Once you improve the sewer, you have a hard time capping the development, which runs into the traffic challenges there. So a simpler solution is never to sewer. Avoid the growth issue flowing into the traffic issue.
They pulled up their schedules and plans and showed us it's in a 5-year timeline.
Yeah, in the short term.
Well, we're in that part of town, there's 2 big parcels, the Mayflower Complex, if you know, and Mill Pond Village. Will one or both of those be on the Yarmouth system or go to Barnstable, or we don't know?
Well, we have to revisit the Yarmouth phasing at some point in the relatively near future, but if you look at that map right now, Mill Pond Village is not in any phase of the Yarmouth.
So does that suggest it might go to Barnstable? It's hard up against the Barnstable line.
That suggests that it doesn't need to go anywhere. But it could. I mean, that is a possibility. It's one of the things we talked about.
Yeah, they've been to some of the public meetings and the suggestion was that they just come up with an agreement directly with Barnstable, Yarmouth, County Yarmouth, not be involved.
Right.
Because they, as I understand, want to get rid of their on-site system.
Well, I think everybody does. It's got a big tree on-site plant. I mean, that's kind of okay.
Yeah, so they've had some, I guess, preliminary discussions with Barnstable folks.
Okay.
And that's part of all that flow from that area that they would sewer. It comes down into that same pumping station. And that
Yeah,
Idaho Road.
I understand that. I think generally speaking, we've gone to the centralized system to the exclusion of everything else. As opposed to saying, a nursing home over here with independent living, maybe they just need a package treatment plant on site. If we can't afford to bring them a pipe, because we weren't planning to bring a pipe up there anyways. And if we got 4 units who are commercial, not too many guys using the bathroom at Shields, I promise you, don't really need their septic treated. Why are we paying to bring a pipe to them? That's what you guys are here for, to kind of figure that stuff out. Fair enough.
In terms of the regulatory permitting update, the first sheet we've covered pretty much everything there. Again, as mentioned, we're continuing to look at other return locations to find enough capacity for both the rest of phase 1 and future phases, and continuing to look at the concept of some additional located area.
Can I ask a phase 1 question? Meaning phase 1 of the town, not contract 1, contract 2. Once the groundwater, just the final permit is issued for the resource facility, there's no going back, right? The DEP, because you were talking about them hopefully going forward, be looking at their calculations that we never encountered before this project started. So in other words, it's not like they said, well, here's 375,000 for your plant. It's not like in 2 years they can come back and say, well, you know what, we were wrong. You can have another 500.
No, we fully hope
right. So that's I just wanted to clarify that because the site, that's why I wanted to just clarify in my head, because the plant itself can handle way more than they've already given us initial approval for. So it's still possible we can go back to them because, as you've already indicated, we have to patch a lot of different places in order to get to the totals just for phase 1, much less any other.
The hope is that we can show through the monitoring plan,
right,
that the site can handle much more flow than they gave the permit. So it's every 5 years they have to issue.
So let's remember that we need a discharge permit to get the facility permit. Right. And the discharge permit currently is Form 1.2, maybe at some point. But we're getting a permit to build a facility that's going to treat 4.2.
1 point average.
fair enough. A number higher than discharge.
Right.
We're already building a facility larger than we're permitted to discharge. I'm hoping to earn our way to, or at least figure out a way to discharge.
But as you pointed out, we have all these contracts being built in not necessarily the order they were intended to through nobody's fault. Plus additional phases.
It's such a job. I mean, you can run a pipe from Bass River to Yarmouth at the Hyannis town line, leave it in the ground and not use it. Problem is you pay for it, you want to generate revenue, you have to pay back the bonding for it. And if we're not pumping and treating out of those, out of most of it or some of it, our numbers are going to be upside down. So let's see if we can get all of that, connect all those connections connected and flowing,
and then
paying and contributing, and then we can go from there.
Thank you.
But at the same time, probably can't move to phases 2 and 3 until we resolve the issues of phase 1.
Right. That's where I guess that's where my head was. And you know, I live in a place that I think is phase 8, so I understand that we'll be alive for it at this point.
No need to couch those terms at all. We have to stand in front of the public 3 months from now and do exactly this. Explain what we're talking about. So if we're not getting it straight, I'm not sure we can deliver it straight.
Well, I think it would be reasonable for someone who hasn't been in these meetings to say, well, if the state said you can only use this massive, I'm going to say the word massive plant capacity wise, but it's only being given, let's call it 20% of the discharge that it can handle, then is that it? That's why I asked the question, like, is that it? No going backsies? But it sounds like there is a process to go back. But I also heard the word 5 years. Which
groundwater discharge permits, when they're issued, they're good for 5 years. You apply 6 months prior to that permit expiring. And so if you're showing no impact, you can go in and try to argue as part of that permit renewal process that you can get more flow.
Gotcha. Well, that's at least a much more reasonable, and I'm glad, real answer to, I think, a very reasonable question from the community, which would be, okay, you had to do this song and dance with these working groups, and it kind of stinks that we didn't get the approval we needed. But it's good to know there's a process to go back. It's, of course, having this all timed with all the different phases and contracts is going to be the interesting challenge.
And that 0.37 is based on the model.
Of course.
The model has a lot of conservatism built into it. So the intent of the monitoring plan
is to show actual.
And whether the monitoring plan is, okay, if we have the model set, here's what we're seeing
what it is.
Happen.
Okay.
Actually getting from the site.
Got it. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So do we have to pray for dry weather?
And droughts. Yeah, I mean, you could argue that the opposite could happen. The monitoring plan could show that not that much is flooded.
We also talked to DEP, and we haven't gotten an answer on, is it going to be one permit for the town, or is it going to be separate permits for the districts? Right now, this permit is for Buck Island Road.
But not Bayberry or
not Bayberry or Station Ave. So if we go there, is there going to be a separate? More than likely, that would be a permit for X amount of gallons at Bayberry, with all the same kind of conditions: monitoring, groundwater monitoring, level monitoring.
Anything else you want to go over with this?
The last slide is just continuation of some more permitting, land use controls still up there. We got the final sign on that. We got an indication that they had approved them. MassDOT, we expect the permit for contract to be issued within the next couple of weeks. It moved into the what they call the draft stage. Answered all of their, responded to all of their comments. Contract 5 and 6 permit. We're hopefully this week we'll be sending in response to the last round of comments that they had on that permit application. We still have to file with Conservation Commission for 5 and 6, so we're seeing additional submittals for those, and then the last item is just the CBA. They rendered their decision for the pumping station 5. It's still within the 20-day appeal period. Once that's approved, then they'll issue it.
You have the board of appeals permit for the plan.
Yes, that's
That's already been issued.
Yeah, that was,
Mr. Chairman, when there's public comment, you said there was a period that starts in I don't know, 10 days for the groundwater discharge permit. There's a public comment.
30
period.
day.
Right. Do those public comments, if there are any, I assume they go to you guys?
No,
Or
they
Jeff?
go to DEP.
They go to DEP, and then DEP tells us.
It's a permitting system that requires public
Right.
and comment period.
And they're required to then share all the comments back?
Well, it's public record.
Yeah, so I mean.
It goes into their
Yeah.
record.
And then it comes
in public.
It comes to.
If you wanted to look at it, I don't know how they do it on a daily basis or at the end of the 30-day period. There's a record.
Typically, at the end of the 30-day period, they just forward them all back to the town.
Oh, yeah.
To address.
Or ignore.
Well, it goes into the permit.
Respond there, really.
Well,
You have to respond to every,
Okay.
typically how many would you get?
Totally depends on the site. From 0 to you name it.
Because if the site's in a neighborhood, and people are all get together and say, we don't want this pumping
This is
station.
a pretty.
Sure. Is it Arbutus Path? No, is that the street?
Could be, yeah. It says stop the force main from going up to that area. So one of those people who make comments on the groundwater permit, who knows?
Where's the sign?
Yeah.
Is it the Bass River? Is it the Bass River neighborhood?
No, it's south of the Buck Island roadside.
So the force main from.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, it's north of Winslow Gray.
Yep.
The force main from pumping station 3, which is the old driving site, is gonna be coming up here. I think it's Arbutus Path.
Yeah, it's right there. This is a sign. There's signs.
Before that heads through the Cranberry.
Put on all the
I see
telephone
the
poles
plan.
and trees and stuff.
Sounds like somebody's got some dead bodies there.
They don't want them digging in.
But
It's like their playground that they don't want used.
But if that nice person came to this meeting, what would you say to them?
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Right, in other words, I mean, again, I'm just,
What's
you
your
said this,
concern?
Mr. Chairman, it's possible those are the kinds of people that would come to the next
They've
opportunity.
never approached the town to my knowledge.
Of course, maybe the same kind of people that send emails to DEP,
I just have.
when there's an open public comment, whereas, why not come to the once a month meeting of the.
I'm familiar with the
yard.
process.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons, and they're waiting for the guys who are gonna give them technical information that they can incorporate into their decision-making process. I don't want my road torn up for a sewer is not. They're gonna get that, but that's not what's gonna hold a lot of weight in their deliberations of how they exercise this permit. But it's there for whatever other reason we might need to bring it. Some hydrogeologist has a summer house here might want to jump in with both feet and say, hey, have you considered this? And now they're looking at something that they didn't anticipate looking at something. Thanks, gentlemen. Keep this going. Public safety is the next thing on our agenda. So far, I have not heard the usual cry from the public about the construction that's taking place today. Obviously, there's some impact. There's some inconveniences. Anybody here anything else they want to bring to the table?
I think as a driver, it's a little confusing because on the one hand, the sign says businesses are open. And on the other hand, it says detour. So, you know, it's literally saying two different things at the same time. And I'm not saying there's any way around it, but it would lead me, if I was a business owner on that section of 28 specifically, it would probably lead to some, I don't know, a change in the volume of business.
Oh, no question.
And so I guess, but that's not intentional, and I get that. But I'm not sure what's the workaround, because as a driver, you know in your head, because you live here, that you know the florist next to the post office is open. But the sign says road closed. The other sign says business is open. So which one?
Does that fall into your?
Does that make sense, Jeff? I just don't know.
It
what
does. It says road closed to through traffic. So you do have to read all of the sign.
Okay.
You know, so
Yeah,
but the businesses are open is not part of any kind of mass DOT regulatory engineering design. It was put up to try to address the exact concern you're bringing up, which is that businesses are impacted. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
The idea that was mentioned before about working in that area between Route 28, between Old Main and Forest, and trying to get that done is to not revisit that area. And when it's open up in the fall, they can be relatively free, if you will. But that's going to continue to march its way down Route 28, and that impact is going to be felt all the way through. So we're definitely open to any suggestions people might have about how to encourage people to continue to use the businesses. The best that we've been able to come up with so far is to use the app Waze. If you put the specific business into that app, it will tell you the best way to get there. And it will tell you they're open, because that's the message we want to get out there. We've done some videos, social media stuff, is the businesses are open. You might have to go a different direction. You might have to cut through this post office parking lot to get there. Yeah. But if you're diligent, and we want people to be diligent, you can get to the business that they do. And that's part of the duty of the detail officers. They know that. If you have a question, you should go up to that detail officer. How do I get to that business? It looks like I can't.
I can see it from here, but I'm not sure.
Exactly. Okay. So to Will's point, that kind of traffic management coming under partially your purview. Is the Yarmouth Police Department involved in all?
I would say the police are more involved with regards to detour and signage than we are. So it's a team effort.
Any issues with that? Generally speaking, we have an offer from the chief of police to come sit with us if we have anything to address. If we're being taken, we're getting that kind of feedback. They want to hear it. A lot of people may be intimidated with the Yarmouth Police Department saying, your detours suck, but this is actually true. But if they contact any one of us, even casually, because we've heard about it, we'll talk about it, maybe figure out how to address it. This is the beginning, or as Churchill said, it's not even the beginning, it's the beginning of the beginning. We only had a couple of months experience so far. It's going to be
from our inspectors. They're not shy of rolling down their window and yelling obscenities at them. So they might be at the construction crews yelling your detours suck.
Well,
get the F off the road.
Challenge for them and for us as well. The details aren't permanent. There's folks that are serving that are part-timers, retirees, from other towns, and their job is to stand here and make sure nobody rushes into each other. They're not thinking that if I put this sign half a mile down the road to avoid this amount of traffic coming down this road, and do me a favor by not getting stuck in it. Somebody at a higher level has to think of that at the beginning of the day to make sure it's working for everybody. That's the part that we typically hear as a complaint. But as I said before, if you grew up here, July and August, you're on Buck Island Road. Yeah. Don't even bother through 28.
This July and August, that might be difficult.
That could be a problem.
So we're going to have that challenge on top of the traffic challenge this summer, but September, October, November, people want to be able to get out here pretty easily as well before the winter sets in. So we'll see.
In Howard's, when they were doing the sewers on 137, the Ace Hardware, they was running sewer specials just to get people to come show up, and he advertised all his sewer specials just to show that he was open, even though they were going through the same issues. So on the other hand, in Barnstable, we heard that they're starting to pay a premium and willing to do it to do all the work at night instead of during the day. They said they were probably hitting a 30+% premium.
Yeah, 30 to 40, I think that's it. So, if it does get to be too painful, we need to look at other options, we can, but the options are very expensive.
Well, I'm sure Mary Govan and the nice folks at the chamber will let you know.
She comes to all of our meetings.
Yes.
Yeah, is anybody a chamber member?
Yes.
You are being tasked with asking Mary how it's going.
Oh. What? I'm sorry.
How do you feel about that?
Sure.
You'll get an earful.
Well, she comes all the Jeff knows more about Mary's feelings than I do.
That's great. For that community, it's very well organized, right? Yeah. Most of those guys are members and they know who to call if there's a thing. So let's take advantage of it.
North Main Street to whatever that other road is, it's not a big area. And it seems to me that somebody could figure out, okay, you can park, if you want to get to that person doing a beauty salon in there, you can park
you know, in another business, and the business cooperated with each other. You know, you can park here for Rose's Beauty Salon. It just, you know, it isn't like it's a 5-mile stretch. You can walk that in 5 minutes. So.
It's still different than what people are using.
Yeah, well, just, you know, people have to understand, we're trying to get something done, and you're a bit of, I know you probably get a lot of grief, but, you know, I think just.
It's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah. You know, if there was a sign that says park here, or. Then walk over there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even that big a walk, even I could do it with my back foot.
But it is one of the reasons why I was so happy to say this was the last week of the term.
Anybody with experience living in an urban area will manage. That we'll figure out how to do it.
We should probably say wastewater financing to time when we're asking for waste finance report, so probably not today. Bob is typically our sort of finance source. But maybe at some point we want to take a look to see how we're doing financially, the authorizations that we have in place, and how quickly this money is getting spent. What I really wanted to get to was we decided that we wanted to meet in September with the public, or at least make ourselves available to the public to meet with us. And we are 2 meetings out from that. Project isn't going to be visible per se as much this summer because 28 is going to be closed, but from September, thought that would be a good time to go out and engage public. I was open to going somewhere similar to what we did a couple of years ago when the project started, and sort of run through the project's preliminaries and give people an idea of what's been happening and what's about to happen, and give them an opportunity to ask questions. Wondering if that needs to be separate from one of these meetings. I was thinking, we have a built-in way to do this, to use our September meeting for more of a public discussion, and maybe move this thing back to town hall for September meeting, and even conduct some of this business.
When you say September, what are you talking?
So we would typically meet the first week of September, which happens to be Labor Day weekend, so this would be September 9th. But technically, we can move our meeting to whenever we want to move it to.
I just think you ought to go to October, because.
But if it turns out to be October, that's fine too. I think we need to sort of pick a target and aim for it, and if we miss, we find ourselves in October.
Who do you think our public is? Who should we target? And who do we think is going to come to a meeting?
I'm not sure. I just think that there's historically in these meetings have not been a place for public to engage. Even though they're open to the public, you can turn it on and you can watch us. You can come here and sit with us, but they're not. For us, it's been an exercise in being proactive, so we can identify any issues ahead of time and kind of incorporate them into our process, as opposed to waiting for something to go wrong and then have to address it on the other side. It shows good faith, it shows goodwill. We had very successful meetings. First time out at the realtor's office, and they started to dissipate a little bit after that. There's a lot of folks who wanted to get something off their chest came to that first meeting, and then moving around the neighborhoods, fewer people came out. Youngport was very well attended as well, even though they're not directly in the project. So, not suggesting we do the full blown tour and maybe not even go out to other locations, but if we made an effort to market one of our meetings, advertise one of our meetings as that place where you can come and ask questions about the project, then we probably done ourselves a favor if we have to go back to town meeting for anything, and or next spring.
I'm
I'm
just,
giving it at your pleasure if you.
I'm just wondering, at this point, we have a program is set. We're just in the first phase. Projects, we're not going to be doing residential for a long time.
There lies one of the answers to the question. When are you coming to my neighborhood? Not for a long time. But here's the plan.
So, if I might, in the vein of what I think is your thought, which is communicating with the public, to my mind, the most informative vehicle the town has is cable television. So just kind of repackage your thought and think in terms of just an idea. The Water Resources Committee and Department of Public Works wants to report to the selectmen progress report is where the town is at a given point of time. Let's like the conversation put out 6 months since we started digging, whatever. So sometime this fall, the selectmen have, if you will, an open, quasi-open meeting, whatever we want to call it. Jeff speaks for the town, says, you know, here's a partnership doing what we're doing. We have various others available. This committee, part of the total, our engineers, etc. And that's broadcast. And what I find interesting about the cable TV is, you know, rather than a slow night and I push number 8 or number 22, here one of the various boards, and you get a little insight. And sometimes it's a week, 10 days, 2, 3 weeks old. It doesn't matter. You're, as a citizen, you're getting information about some component of the town. And I don't know what the schedule is for replays, but I do know that some of them are replayed. And I think, you know, that'll contact many, many more people than we'll ever get at any, you know, we've had all those open houses over the years, and if we had a big one, we had 30 or 40 people. With the cable idea, you know, reach who knows how many.
It's just, we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about creating that event for TV. And I'm suggesting it be one of our regular scheduled meetings, so we're not actually coming out again for it. But that meeting we did take in Yarmouth Port a couple of years ago ran over and over and over and over again. So it was very useful, right? But we actually have to create that content. Just going to be going to the selectmen at some point anyway, which you do fairly frequently on this one. You can be the guy. We can add something at the table if you want to do it that way. I just want to make sure everyone had a chance to be out there and it just not be this room.
I just think we have to have a public meeting, just so someone doesn't stand up at town meeting or asking for money and say, how come we didn't have any public meetings? I mean, we did that when we redid our bylaws for the Conservation Commission. We had 8 public meetings, but lo and behold, someone still stood up and said, how come I didn't know anything about public meetings? And Brittany was able to stand up and say, well, we had 8 of them, you know, and it kind of shut them down. And I think it's important to have a public meeting, and we can tape it and then put it on cable. So
I don't want to
both ideas.
Take credit for the success of town meeting, but it was the process in which we started, and then the selectmen continued by creating their own marketing committee. I forget what we even called it.
Yeah.
Where we would meet separately to put the information about this project out there right before town meeting. And you don't get much closer to a unanimous approval town meeting than we got for this project that night from that process of this group, our meetings, the marketing committee, the advertising, the radio ads, the whatnot. So
I think, Jim, the other part of this committee meeting with the public is the opportunity to ask questions. That, you know, that's somewhat subdued at selectmen's meetings. Where if we're focusing on this, And then if that's taped and put out there, not everybody gets to ask their questions, but certainly some folks will.
I like the idea of doing it in town hall in the big room. Because you've already got the infrastructure for the technology to make the recording, have the conversation. Same thing that you were just talking about, Dave, was what we did with the accessory dwelling units issue, which we knew was going to town meeting. So at the planning board, we had several public meetings throughout the process, and it's never going to be perfect, and you're never going to reach everybody, but you also have to do something, because doing nothing is not okay. So I hope we can end up somewhere in the fall at town hall, and have given the public an opportunity to at least ask questions. Maybe after we have our regular meeting, then we close the meeting, then we have the other part of the meeting, however you want to format it. Sure.
The thought behind that room as well is that you can have it as an online meeting as well.
Right, folks can come in via Zoom.
So if they're not coming to town hall,
exactly,
they can plug in if they want.
Right.
So getting consensus.
Two points, Mark and John. John wants us to essentially get something out there. And Mark wants to have an ability for people to ask questions. Where we do it, we just need to create the content. If we can play it over and over again, just call it our committee's report to whomever we're reporting to. But we need to have that component that allows people to come and pose questions, and we need to be able to repeat it multiple times. So it doesn't make any difference to me where we create the content, but we just need to keep those two facets as part of it. But certainly we know from experience that doing it saves a lot of trouble down the line.
It's also nice to say to somebody who might have missed it or claims that it never happened. It's nice to be able to send them a YouTube link or a Town of Yarmouth website link to say, hey, guess what? Let's not worry about the fact that you weren't there. It did happen. There were lots of great questions asked. If you got 45 minutes of your life, here it is. There's a lot of value in that too.
So let's target something in the fall. Don't know exactly what it looks like, but a little bit of time to plan. Plus, we're going to have some consent from the selectmen to do it. If our advisory group can just sort of say, hey, guess what we're doing. But let's nail down the next couple of meetings in the meantime. How was July 8th? The next meeting? And then 4 weeks later, August 5th. Let's start with the consultants. Not the 4th of July conflict, but it's the day after.
The day after the long weekend. I'm fine with it.
Okay, so that's a thing. We're not without updates. And unfortunately, it's the day before your July 9th meeting, but maybe not a lot would have transpired between now and then.
No,
It's
the day before. It's 2 days before the pre-bid conference, but we're not going to hear a lot of it.
No, just offering the option that maybe a week later you would have that conference, that July 9th meeting, and then the reports would be more to date.
Well, we won't have the public comment period won't have ended by July 8th or the 15th. It's going to run through July.
So we're going to do that in August
5th. So we will have more information on the permanent.
For another reason, unless there's other objections, grab the 8th of July here, and as we're putting together the agenda, see if there's significant information to go over. So otherwise, you guys might prefer a day off, month off.
Possibly. Has this committee historically met in July and August?
I think early on we tend to slack off in the summer, but the last 2 years we have not taken a month off.
Wouldn't characterize that as fine.
And there's obviously August.
Well, I wouldn't characterize it that way, but I get it. I get what you're saying.
Didn't like your slack off.
No, I don't take it that way. I mean, I work in a business that's 24 hours a day in July and August, so I don't see anybody I don't see it that way.
It's a consideration to everybody.
Yeah, of course.
July and August,
Right.
is a busy time. Well, it's also the time we look forward to.
Yeah, of course.
Taking
That's what I
advantage.
mean. So like, to me, it's like, it doesn't surprise me that organizations take and meetings don't happen in July and
On July
August.
8th, you're not going to be at that barbecue in the backyard, you're gonna go to the water resources.
Well, I think my answer would be, Mr. Chairman, is I will be on Zoom if I am anywhere in July and August.
That's what I mean, if
Yeah,
you
of course.
the point between the agenda, the updates, and the quorum in question. We might wait till August, but at the same time, I want to schedule August 5th, just to make sure.
Okay.
So are you meeting the July 8th?
Yes.
We'll put it on.
Yeah,
Sounds like it's on the calendar.
I think it's it's valuable to plan for. We would, depending on how much progress we make, I was looking at September 9th is the next meeting date in September, but we're talking about adding a quorum component to it. It could be, we keep that date and then do forum subsequent to that, or you can do that date before. We don't need to make that decision today. It's just a thought how this might play out. Town meetings wouldn't happen until November this year.
I think it's officially the 19th. One second. I'm only saying that because we may have zoning amendments.
Yeah, and
or the 20th.
we're not bumping up against town meeting.
Well, I just wanted you to know, I think it is November 19th.
We're thinking about once the selectmen come back from Labor Day and they start gearing up for those things and they start ordering and warrant articles and start having meetings and hearings about them.
Yeah, there is start plugging. There's not a lot of time after Labor Day before November 19th to meet all the rules and regulations, right?
It's efficient, it's not.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody else wants to bring up before we look at the minutes from last week?
I have a piece of new business, Mr. Chairman. I passed out a program for an upcoming conference. It's next Tuesday, called the Cape Coastal Conference. It's no charge to attend. You can see by the items on the agenda, some of them may be interested. Members of this committee, it's related to watershed permitting. One of them has a few people from DEP.
Yeah,
including the Southeast Region Director and Aidan Langley, our Water Resources Division Chair. So, but as a piece of interest, if anyone's interested,
This is great. I Mark
shared it with Jeff. Jeff mentioned he's attending. I'll be attending.
This type of work from White Bay's been going on for a long time. I'm just surprised it escaped our attention, probably because the whole media letting us know what's going on thing has fallen apart.
And hollowed. It's been hollowed out.
Yeah, so we're not relying on those
Thank you
sources.
for bringing this up. So
Yeah, if you're interested, just Google 2024 Cape Coastal Conference and
If you're challenged on the link, where the state's picking up the tab
for registration.
We all got the minutes from last meeting. Any questions, comments, edits?
I move.
Approved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's just say that was unanimous. Now, since we don't have the friends in the house, we're gonna have the friends of Fast River update. So we can entertain a motion to adjourn. And all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.